Captain.
Yes.
We got some signatures on the sensors here.
You need my signature for what?
No, we got signatures.
Oh,
No,
on the
radar.
sensors. Oh, okay,
On the
okay.
sensors, on the sensors.
Okay, can't I see that on my screen?
Yeah, no, not that one. Not that one.
I'll just go ahead and raise shields. I'm captain of the most powerful battleship in the entire universe, so I'm not worried about a few signatures.
I kind of had to get rid of some of those systems.
Why? I thought we were upgrading.
Maybe down the road, but not today.
I want to fire torpedoes.
I can't do that, Captain. We don't have any.
What do you mean we don't have any? I just stopped at a spaceport and bought 250 proton torpedoes.
Yeah, I kind of had to give those away to get some faction off my back.
What did you do to tick off a faction?
He was flirting with this young lass, and apparently she was promised to some king.
Oh, no.
So I kind of had to, yeah.
Say no more. I don't want to hear it. Why did I even hire you on this crew?
Because we were related.
That's true, yeah. Welcome to the Dice Odyssey. I'm Kaz.
I'm Brian.
AKA Scotty in this universe, right? He's been cracking me up the whole time. Hard to keep a straight face, but we want to bring to you the game called Ironclad by Alcyon Creative. This game is basically a kind of a beautiful throwback to, anything from the 80s and possibly /90s. Like, think of Star Wars, Voltron, Stargate. Yeah, all sorts of amazing cartoons and movies that you may have loved and grown up with, and also some of the anime from the 90s as well. This brought back, what was it, Robotech, and all these other different kinds of animes that came out. The artwork really exudes that. But this is kind of it's kind of got some RPG flavor to it. It's a campaign. You basically taking a battleship called the Ironclad through crazy different scenarios. Doing a campaign of it. You're trying to complete missions, trying to complete objectives. But anyway, there's a lot to it, and we'll give you kind of an overview of how the game plays. But and we'll get back to our final thoughts. All right, let me go ahead and get you started on how to play the game. Again, it's going to be a general rules overview. I'm not going to hit nowhere near to every rule. That's what you have that rule book for, because it's such an intensely immersive game. It would take me an hour or two to even explain it all. So, like I said, we're only going to take a few minutes. But anyway, let me go ahead and get you started. And again, we're also going to switch to floating cam mode in a moment, just because it's going to be easier to get around the table at some point to kind of give you ideas on what to do. But anyway, let me go ahead and start with this. First thing, you got your standard rule book, then you're going to have a campaign book that's going to list different scenarios, telling you what factions, the different kinds of scenarios and objectives are going to affect, your choices and things like that. And I don't want to show you too much of that because I don't know if that's going to be involved in the final game. But you also get on the back, you're probably going to have to make copies of this, the campaign log, okay? And you're going to be able to, show where you are when it comes to what status that the actual Ironclad's in, the scenarios, if you were, what you did in those scenarios, and like basically, did you lose, reputation? That's a big thing in this game is reputation, and what factions are ticked at you basically now, and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's going to be one of your main things in the game. Again, just look at the artwork first off. This is just harkens back to some Robotech and some other old school anime. That dude actually works for you. Check him out. Alright, so you got, I got some fighters mixed in there, but they go over there. And so on and so forth. You get the idea. This person looks like a wraith from Lord of the Rings. But anyway, let me just give you an idea though. This is going to be their hiring cost. Now the cool thing is they also have promotional versions of themselves. I call them elites, but some things are elites, some things aren't. But so they're going to be a little bit more powerful in different ways. They're going to cost more to hire, okay? And they're going to have different kinds of stats. So for example, just to give you an idea, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but just to give you an idea, this person has great stealth. Couldn't tell by the mask. Okay, they have stealth of 2, their attack power is 2, their piloting skill is 1, their engineering skill is 1. They have a special ability at the bottom. It says that they also have a tag that lets you know what kind of person they are, because this is going to matter on some cards. It's going to say, hey, if you have an agent, you can exhaust them to use a certain kind of power, or if you have, a marine, or, whatever it is. But for example, this person says, always outnumbered, always alone, one with the night, one with darkness. They have a shinobi power, okay? They kind of look like that, right? If alone in an operation, their sneaking power is tripled, right? So instead of being 2, this now becomes 6. And you're going to see that on different cards. Everybody's going to have different special abilities. That's a really cool part of this game, like this robot here. He gains an extra operating cost or extra piloting cost while in a cosmic condition sector, right? And so, like I said, every card's going to be different. Everybody's going to have different abilities, and they're going to be a special addition to your crew, okay? So anyway, that's going to be that. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the kind of encounters you might have. You're going to have different kinds of ships to fight that you're going to encounter. You're going to have dreadnoughts, you're going to have battleships, things like that. And the cool thing is, you flip these over, they even have even more crazy editions of themselves, higher powered editions, elite editions that are going to have even more powerful stats, okay? So just to give you an idea of what some of these stats might mean, this is going to be the accuracy stat for this card. This is going to be the attack power, okay? This is going to be their evade stat. This is going to be their hull, shields, and radiation shields. That's for like cosmic encounters, not talking about the game. And then at the bottom, well, let me go to this part. At the top here, you also see they have these faction spots. Some of them have them, some of them don't. See, there's different kinds of factions in the game that these people represent, and this may come into play during scenarios, okay? And again, depending on how you deal with certain factions and what choices you make, it's going to affect your reputation. That's going to make them mad at you. They're going to make them more of an ally towards you, so on and so forth. And also at the bottom, if you look at the card, it shows you the different kinds of tactics. They have these kind of attacks. What are their target priorities? They target slow ships first. They ignore fast ships. Okay, so that means they're going to target the Ironclad because it's considered a slow ship. Cloaking, once per combat. Ignore first successful hit received. So this person can actually dodge, your first hit that you throw at them or that you land. And then also you're going to have different kinds of fighter squadrons, and they typically go after fast ships without shields, right? And everything's just discussed here at the bottom and explains it all. And again, they have their elite side as well. And then sometimes you'll even run into character ships, okay? And that comes into play even more heavily, it seems, inside of the actual campaign itself. So let me go ahead and show you the Ironclad itself. This is going to be your main battleship, okay? You've got a turn track marker up here. You've got the different sections that show you which parts of the ship are affected by enemy fire or different conditions, okay? You've got a morale counter, and depending on how high or low your morale is, you're going to get modifiers applied to your dice and other special effects. You've got a crew counter here, and again, the higher the crew count you've got, higher the crew count you've got, the more actions you're going to have available to you. That's what that symbol represents right there, okay? You've also got ammo and certain kind of weapons. Special abilities are going to require you to have a certain amount of ammo. You're going to have roll damage chart here, which basically says you roll the die that's included in the game, and whatever you roll, it's going to affect that specific spot. So for example, it says 3 on the die, it says 3 here. That means that the reactor took a hit. Okay, now there's ways to mitigate this, but anyway, then you also have module spots which allow you to upgrade your ship. Better shields. As a matter of fact, I'll show you right now. You got everything from better shields to cloaking generator, medical bay, ammo reserves, improved hull, advanced sensors, you name it. They've got a ton of them for it. So you got a lot of opportunities to upgrade this ship, and I love that. You got your little shield monitor there. Okay, and again, depending on what you're facing, it's going to be able to absorb different kinds of damage. You also have an energy meter here, and that's going to come into play when you start using higher powered weaponry on your ship, or if you need to designate power, if you've ever watched any kind of a Starship movie or show, when they say divert power from one system to shields, heavier shields or heavier or better life support or whatever it is, right? And so if you're starting to divert things, let's say you need to divert some power from the shields to something else. Well, guess what? You don't have shields this phase, right? Because you're taking extra power and diverting it to maybe higher powered weaponry, things like that. So you have to make some seriously strategic decisions when it comes to that. You've got your salvage meter here. This just says how much, of a reward of salvage did you get. You can use salvage for several different things. You got your hull meter here. Now, when that goes below 1, the Ironclad's destroyed, bottom line. So that's pretty much the Ironclad and how it functions, right? Obviously, there's also a threat level here. The threat level is going to advance throughout the campaign, so you need to upgrade the ship, make it more powerful. You also have action tokens here because typically every round you're going to start out with 2 actions. Every time you take an action, you flip it, okay? Now, as you progress the campaign and as you fight ships and things like that and do different missions, you're also going to get loot tokens that you can pick up. Now, this is just a few of what I've got here, but I'm just giving you an example. These will augment certain abilities that you have, certain, like operating skills and things like that. So that's another thing that you're going to receive as you go. This is the Ironclad, which from what I understand is supposed to actually have a miniature in the end, not just this tile. Tile's kind of cool, but I would prefer a miniature. And you start out wherever the campaign tells you to start out. And then you actually get to choose, right? Now, keep in mind, it's a cooperative game, so you all are choosing together what might be the best course of action. So, for example, let's say I want to choose Recon. Recon says I want to check an adjacent system next to me and check out what that intel is, right? Because you don't want to blind jump into an area. Like, if I decided to move instead, which is another action I could take, I could go there and I could go, okay, what's there the minute I get there? But if I go there, I have to deal with whatever's there, right? But if I wanted to, I can say, all right, I'm going to do a recon. So that takes an action. I'm going to flip the action token over, okay, that I've used. And now I'm going to flip the intel. And now it's saying, uh-oh, signatures detected. And now what I do is, according to the campaign, I'm going to go into here and I'm going to pull out whatever cards it says. I'm going to roll dice typically and pull out whatever cards it says that I'm facing. You know, if it's a battleship or fighters or what have you. I can now choose, because I've done that recon, I've had my sensors scan that area, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to face them right now. So I could easily go into another area and move there if I want to, okay? But let's say for the sake of the example, I go ahead and I move there. Well, now I have got to face something, not only the ships that might be there, but I've also got to face this geomagnetic storm, right? And that's considered like a cosmic encounter. And I know that I keep saying that, that's a game, but it's, I can't remember the exact name of it right now. It's like a cosmic issue that you've got to deal with. Okay, I'm consulting the chart. It's not on this side, but it is on this side, right? Because there's so many different things you can run into. So I'm going to go ahead and consult it and do what it says. This is saying I have to roll a die twice, and it's also saying that one of my shields, one of my radiation shields is going to go ahead and take one of those hits, right? And when I roll that, remember, I'm rolling this die to determine what part of the Ironclad is going to get hit, and I go by that roll damage chart on the actual Ironclad mat over here, okay? So that's what you're going to do first when you land in an area that's got something like this, okay? And once you've done that, then you pull out the ships, and you're going to go to fight, right? Well, typically you're going to go to fight. So, for example, let's say I'm pulling out this battleship, okay? Now, I've already gone through it with you a little bit about what's going to happen, but basically, I'm not going to go into every detail on this aspect, but basically, you go into battle, damage is actually applied simultaneously. So, even if the Ironclad went to battle against this thing, or if the fighters went to battle in some way, I'm not going to show you that because it basically works about the same, but if you went into battle, if the Ironclad goes into battle with this thing, they're firing at each other simultaneously, okay? So both ships are going to take damage. Even if you fired on this ship with the Ironclad first, the Ironclad destroys it. It doesn't matter. This thing, if it fires back and it hits the Ironclad, it's still going to count against the Ironclad's damage, right? So that's what you're going to go into. And if you actually defeat the ship, you get 2 salvage icons from it, right? As you notice, you got the hangar, you got the bridge, you got your weapons, and you're going to assign people according to their stats to those specific areas, okay? Who's going to work the best in those areas, all right? So right now, what I'm looking at is, do I want to send out fighters, you know, because the person who's controlling this area, because each player's dealt one of these areas, does that person want to send out a pilot with a fighter? And then what you're going to do is start looking at stats and see how they work with that fighter, okay? And you're going to roll dice accordingly. And again, there's charts in the actual book that will tell you how all this works. So on these orders cards, you can actually say, okay, I'm going to do a standard attack, and then you do what it says, all right? You can also do a complex, but it says you can only do that once per encounter, or you can do a heroic. Now, the further down you go, the more powerful the attack. Heroic can only be done once per scenario, all right? So you have to decide, is it worth it, or do I need to save that for like a huge battle, right? On the other hand, you remember what I told you about, reorganizing energy outputs into different areas? Well, this would be one of those times that this works out. So, for example, the weapons officer is saying, hey, I'm not going to do a standard attack, right? I want to do an actual complex heavy cannon battery. Right there, that's saying that's going to require an extra energy to be taken away. So what he's going to be doing at that point is he's going to be looking at that Ironclad mat over there, and you're going to take that top energy away like we did before to show that now, okay, I'm diverting power from shields into the heavy cannon battery so you can now fire on that ship with heavier amounts of damage. As you can see, it can count for 3 hits if it's successful. And then what you're doing, again, you're looking at stats and seeing what works according to the area you've been assigned and against their evasion status, for example. Okay, and also how much hull they have, shielding, so on and so forth. And again, this is all going to be dice rolling. You're going to count in modifiers for that, and you're also going to count in morale track and other things that are actually on your Ironclad mat, which can also count as modifiers, right? So depending on how damaged you are, it might be detrimental. But depending on how fit your crew is and how great your ship is upgraded, you may actually be able to do more so than what it says on these cards. Also, one other thing to keep in mind is that when you actually go and you go onto those intel spots, there's going to be times where you might pick up a distress beacon, or there could be an alien infestation and things like that, okay? So basically what you're going to be looking at on these cards, and they all generally work the same with some changes, but if you look, for example, the distress beacon, it says it's encounters optional. Some of them you are mandatory, you have to do it, right? If you look, it shows you roll this die, saying roll the die, and it tells you what's going to happen at this distress beacon. Heck, if you roll a 1 and 2, it could be an ambush. Now, if you also look, this was something you really need to see, because this is this comes into play heavily. You see the green, the yellow, and the red? That's going to depend upon the threat level that's actually in the scenario and in the campaign that you're currently at. You have different threat levels. It's going to modify different things that you do according to this card with the dice, all right? And then also, if you look, let's just say we're on threat level green right now. If you roll 3 to 5, you rescue civilians, exhaust 2 heroes with weaponry icons, or I think that's stealth points to gain a salvage and a gear. Okay, and I showed you, I showed you some of the gear cards. Or if you roll a perfect 6, you can recruit a survivor. That's an automatic success, by the way. Oh, that's another thing. Depending on operation skills and skill checks, if you roll on the die a 1, that's an automatic failure. No matter what else happens, that's an automatic failure. If you roll a 6, that's an automatic success, no matter the modifier. Okay, so either way, that's actually another way to help you out in the long run. Now remember, when this card said exhaust people with such and such abilities or so on and so forth, basically what that means is you're now exhausting these people. Let's say I'm using the captain, for example. I'm just kind of throwing random ones here. You're exhausting the people that you use to pass that card, and so the next encounter you come to, if you do not rest them, which is one of your other actions, okay, then you will not be able to use them for that ability again until they have been rested. Now, one of the last things I'm going to show you is the spaceports, okay? Now, there's 2 sides. This shows you what the spaceport services are for neutral planets, and it also shows you for faction planets, okay? Now, this economy is going to change. Like, say, for example, you want to go saloon, medical facility, you can go do some trading, shipyard, guild, tech center. You can recruit more crew, repair your ships. You can actually... you can fix things, you can do upgrades, there's all sorts of things that you can do at these spaceports. But when it comes to neutral planets, it's not going to really do much for you in terms of like changes because of what you've done with your reputation points. But when you hit factions, this is when things can start getting dicey depending on where you are with factions, okay? So as you notice, it says for neutral, friend, or ally, these are going to be the costs that you're able to do things. Now, if you're an enemy, I think you can't pretty much go there. So, but anyway, like I said, the spaceports are cool. They give you extra abilities to go in and start spending your credits, your money, to get different things that you need. And you have to be strategic with this, because you don't know what you're going to run into, and you absolutely want to upgrade as much as you can in this game, as quickly as you can, right? So anyway, that's pretty much the game in a nutshell. I mean, that really was a nutshell because there's so much that I didn't explain in the game because it's just so much to it. I would really, if I was going to make a how to play this game, I'd want to make it about an hour to really go through everything. An hour might not even be enough, but to really go through everything and to show you everything. But I'm just trying to give you a basic gist of how the game plays. And let's get back to our final thoughts because there are going to be many. All right, Brian, what did you think of Ironclad, man?
I thought it was pretty good. I'm really looking forward possible later on in the game expansions and stuff like that. But the overall game right now, it grabs you. It grabs a hold of you and won't let go.
Yeah.
I mean, scenarios get thrown in there. I mean, I'm just loving it. You're commander of starship going through space.
With multiple system failures, by the way. We ran into that once or twice, but yeah.
I had to sell those dilithiums.
Yeah, I know you did. And boy, we had to fix that ship. So
I mean, granted, this is pre-production, so I mean, a lot of what we have isn't a 100% complete product. But even with that said, it's still a great game. I really do enjoy it. Really am. A lot of different variants for it. The tutorial in there is phenomenal. Kind of walk you through it, kind of give you an idea how to play it. The artwork on here. Oh man, I'm really digging that. I mean, it's
the characters, everything
manga style anime.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm really digging that. I love it. Stuff I grew up drawing and watching.
When it comes to mechanics, I guess I'll start with that myself. The one thing I was goo goo gaga over this game, not a baby, but I was shut up. Okay, that's not that's not the right words I meant, but I was going crazy over the mechanics. One reason being is one of my all-time favorite video games is FTL, Faster Than Light. And it is a roguelike game. It's basically where you're taking a ship through crazy scenarios. You're trying to survive until the very end, till you meet your objective to take on the massive battleship at the end. But throughout, you're having to do things, micromanage systems like keep shields up. You might have to take energy away from shields to power weapons. You know, it depends, and you can upgrade your ship as you go. I love that feeling. You have to keep the oxygen going. You have to board other ships, you know, beam other people over to other ships. You have to repel borders. And this has a very, very similar feel. I love the fact that if you want to, you can upgrade the ship with different kinds of modules to make your ship more powerful. You can upgrade your shields to be more powerful, radiation shields and things like that. I like the idea, too, that, for example, when you're on the bridge, you got the three sets of cards, right? The three sets of orders cards. You got the hangar, the bridge, and the weapons. And so the bridge, you can sit here and rejigger, you know, energy to go to different places to help different things. You can give commands from there. The game in and of itself, it makes you feel like you're on a battleship commanding, you know, a group of mercenaries who are trying to survive to get the next bit of credits, right? To get, what is it? You're in the verse to make the money, kind of like Firefly, right? And so, do you have anything to add on that personally?
I mean, I do like you have to keep morale up. I mean, I do like that. With keeping morale up, it adds different modifiers to it. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, everything in here works together. That's right. I mean, and that's what makes the game. That can make or break a game. I mean, if it doesn't work well with it, which it does in here. I mean, there's some aspects that can get confusing on here, but I mean, I love it. You got a threat level with each round. Each scenario, you got threat levels, and it increases over time, depending on what you're dealing with. You're not going to stay, you're not going to stay a novice throughout the entire campaigns that you're doing. You're going to increase that level. You must upgrade your ship. So it's going to push you to strategize better. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So I mean, it's going to push you to figure out the systems that you need to push more onto, and how you need to upgrade your characters, because you can upgrade your characters as well. Right. You can upgrade. You can promote them and things like that. Add gear. You can get loot and gear that you pick up. Different modules to modify your ship. You can upgrade your fighter ships that you have in your hangar bay. You can upgrade those. which is very cool.
And I love the idea that you can actually take your sensors and recon into a different system to see whether or not, if your ship is crippled, beat up, which we had ours.
Blindly jump out there.
Yeah, you blind jump, and then, oh my gosh, we just blind jumped into something horrific, right? Yeah, you have to deal with the cosmic issues. Like you might go into a solar flare. You got to deal with those issues before you even deal. If there's a battleship there waiting for you, or fighters waiting.
There's a lot of games, the space games, that don't deal with like these cosmic encounters.
Yeah, they don't.
So I do like this. It adds another feel. It adds part of that theme.
Yes, it does. Throughout the game, you're going to run into different scenarios where you might be able to help a bad guy. You have choices, right? You could help a bad guy, or help somebody who's against one of your allies, and that might hurt your reputation. That's one of the key things in this game. Is every action has a reaction, right?
Yep.
So if you do something that ticks off one faction, you may find yourself an enemy later in the game when you actually had somebody who wasn't hostile to you before, right? And so that might also affect different things when you're going into spaceports, or the economy of it. Yeah, you might not even be able to land at that spaceport specifically. They may say, no, you're not going to use this, and guns drawn, that kind of thing. I do like the fact that different kinds of planets also, when you talk about the economy, also change up their economy on where you go and how many of your services you can get. If you need to repair your ship, if you need to hire crew, you need to rest crew. There's so many options in this game, and that's something I love about a game like this, because I am not restricted to just one set scenario, right? There is a mission, there's an overall mission, but this almost feels like a 4X game, to where I'm able kind of to go where I want and do what I want. But yeah, there's a little bit of that mission orientation going on in the background. There's some things you have to deal with as you meet them.
And there's some things you can do that actually give you bonuses.
Absolutely.
So that's great. If you finish, like, some scenarios may give you, if you finish in 8 turns.
Yeah, or 7 turns, like the first scenario did.
So you get some extra bonuses there.
Yeah, extra money, and I also like the idea too that you can gain salvage that you can use for other things. Like one of my characters, the character's having powers, dude. You should.
Oh yeah, yeah. It gets very deep and involved.
Yeah, I mean, like one of my characters, I'm forgetting the girl right here. This girl, if you actually use salvage, you can actually exhaust her to avoid, like a die roll of damage. So there's so many different things. I love the way that all of these characters work together too. Some are better at piloting. Some are better at. It would be better that you put them in the hangar, right? Because each person, because this goes from 1 to 3 players, each person is going to have their own station that they're going to be working at, and you're going to get into debates and arguments, and possibly, you got to figure out how to work together, basically, in this game. Because you have to figure out, do I want to take energy away from this to fire these heavy cannons, which are going to require more power to those, or do I want to give you more power for certain things to do as well at your station?
If you like RPGs, you might take a gander into this one. You might actually like it, especially if you're really a sci-fi freak. If you love space battles, Battlestar, Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, any of those.
Star anything at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, just about anything.
That it really, because you get to upgrade everything.
And I love that.
A lot of games that you play are just straight board games. Ticket to Ride, you build things and you get to the end of it.
Right.
This one actually has a plot, storyline, scenarios on it.
And we have a limited amount of them, and this thing could go anywhere.
And then you could take this, you get the campaigns that go along with the game, but you can think outside the box. Make your own campaigns.
That was not a pun at all either, right?
No. Think outside the box. Make your own campaigns. I mean, it really
I can
has
see
the
you
ability to doing that. I mean, you could, maybe
make your own storyline. Yeah,
make your own storyline.
One other thing I want to add to the production quality, even though this is pre-production, I did like the idea of the modular board. Right, and this lends to the fact that you can kind of design it however you want. It's double-sided with 2 different styles, right? Yeah. 2 different ways of doing things. There's different places that that are on the different sides of it. And I like that, because that means this game can possibly be infinitely replayable, in the sense that you're not going to have the same things happen twice. The intel tokens being wherever, all the different scenarios.
There's some aspects I wish we were a little bit more involved, more in depth on.
Like what? Anything in particular?
Well, I kind of wish you could, like, wormholes or something like that, DS9 type stuff.
You're talking about ones you can just place out there wherever.
Yeah, kind of like a random tile you got in there. You go there, and then you can automatically go way on the other side of the board, type thing. Or, put you... I really like this game and love to see what happens with the expansions. If there are expansions.
Oh,
I know there's
much work
be expansions, but...
Man, much work they put into this.
I would love to have this game. And I would love to see all the expansions that come with it.
The other thing I really like about this is a very immersive game, okay? This is not a sit down and you play quickly kind of game. This is one that's going to take some time, okay? And I also like the idea that from scenario to scenario, depending on, whatever campaign you're in, the Ironclad stays the way you have created it, right? It stays the way you've upgraded. And if it's still alive, but I like that fact. I like that it can go from one thing to another, and you're not sitting here having to reset every single game. That's awesome. I absolutely love this game, and you can see the care and the love and the attention to detail that this team of designers and this publisher have put into every aspect of this game. Is it a perfect game? No. I mean, no game's perfect, but I'm going to tell you, this is not going to be an easy game. It's simple to learn in the sense of the steps that you take, but there's just a lot of moving parts in between. But this is a game that if you like that kind of thing, this is a very, very much well fleshed out game for you. I personally believe that. I really think that you'll love this if you like that type of game, especially with the narrative that's there, the light RPG to medium RPG elements that are in there. This is a game that it needs to be in your collection. Personally, I want this game in my collection. So I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 at its current stage of development. That's awesome for me. That's a full beard rating. What would you say? I know you're probably different, but...
Yeah, I'm different. I'm probably the 8.5, just because I'd love to see, when expansions come out, I would probably jump it all the way up to 9.5.
Hey. Go check it out on Kickstarter. It is getting ready to launch if it hadn't already by the time you see this video. And just thank you so much for dropping in. I'm Kaz.
I'm Brian.
Oh, you've changed back, sir. And hey, can we roll credits?
Actually, I can't do that one. I didn't sell that system off. I do have that system.
He's been pretending the American style accent the whole time. This is his real accent. No. But anyway, yeah. Thank you so much for stopping in. Please like and subscribe. And hey, we release videos pretty regularly on a consistent basis throughout the month. Different months and such. So hey, let us know. Do you like this type of game? Do you like sci-fi? Do you like deep immersive games that take time and energy to really sink your teeth into, or do you like more light style games? Anyway, leave us a comment down below, and we thank you. You have a blessed day,
and make it so.
And game away.